Good evening or good afternoon, depends on the time that you have currently in Bali. Um, Today, my topic, inshallah, will be about navigating pitfalls and the failure mode in Greenfield startup hospitals. Okay. The fact that the complexity of the industry of healthcare is something that always been an issue or a challenge, let's say, for a lot of countries, despite their economy, despite their culture, despite the growth of that industry in their country. But due to that complexity, opening hospitals and healthcare centers, all the types of polyclinic and any type of healthcare can always be challenging from different perspective. Today, we will navigate a lot of pitfalls and failure mode that can create issues due to misplanning and not understanding the complexity, especially in this era where the technology and innovation is growing very vastly and fastly. So next slide, please. Here in Middle East, especially where I live in Saudi Arabia, mashallah, the economy is growing fast, and the need of hospital and healthcare is also growing. But the fact that healthcare investors or business men or whoever is interested in such business or privatization from the government sector is always been a problem due to the fact that some of the investors or people who enter to this industry cannot understand the complexity of the industry. For that reason, and since I've been working for the last 25 years in different healthcare setup, academic, governmental, private sector with foreign investor, private sector with public investors, I have seen a lot in this industry that makes me creating a big picture and a deep picture of why does the failure happen in Greenfield startup. So today, inshallah, we will navigate that and we will know in details what are the main component of those failure modes and how can we avoid such failures in startup business, especially when we are touching patients' life and it is not similar to any other industry or it's not similar to any other investment. Next. So understanding the nature of this business is very important. One of the things that I would like to share with your respectful audience here, that the nature of the Middle East, since the economy was not the biggest issue when you think about opening a hospital or a polyclinic or a medical center. So if the economy is not that much an issue, the remaining element should be taken too much deeply into consideration. For example, if I'm going to talk about Asia in overall, the growth of the healthcare should be taken in a very deep consideration, because we need to first think about preventive medicine rather than opening multiple hospitals just for the sake of revenue. Due to the ethics and the morality of that business, making sure that the investors are investing within the context of the morality and the ethics of that industry is very important. Knowing the market and the market need, the market culture, every single city in any country has their own challenges, their own gaps. Even every neighborhood or every block might have their own market need analysis that need to be taken in consideration. Otherwise, there will be a copy and repetition of services and only increase in bed capacity, which is not always what we are looking for. Of course, with the growth of population, having enough bed capacity, enough service clinic, enough polyclinic, public health centers is very important. But only if we understand the market need, by every mean. Second, please. Speaking about the feasibility and market need analysis, I have a very personal training in that, and I wish that we take it a little bit positively. Now, consulting foreign companies to come and study our own market is not always a great option. It's always better to consult and collect data from the population itself. You cannot bring a foreigner to read your own market. The best reflection of the market need is that you have your own data, transparent data, questionnaires and interviews or electronic questionnaires or whatever the tool was to be chosen for the market need analysis should be taken in a very deep consideration and in a very transparent way, and preferably from companies or consultants who live and know the culture and the market of that specific country. Now, this also linked to the financial management. Financial management, we can still stay in our slide. When we say such complex industry, we are talking about huge funds. Despite the size of the organization, the complexity of healthcare starts from the very first block you put in that building, due to the fact that we have a lot of infection control compliances, codes of building, that is local and international codes. There is a lot of licensing and demands from the municipality, from the construction point of view, from different entity, despite the regulation of that country or regulation of that particular province or city. This need to be all considered in the financial statement and the budget planning, which is also part of the market need analysis. So knowing the actual cost of such complex industry or complex building is very important. And this fund should be extended for a complete 10 years from the first block until the 5th year of operation. You cannot just build the capacity of that financial budgeting only on the year of building start or on an era for the first 3 years. You need to make sure that there is a calculation of the inflation, emergencies, all the surrounding factor that might affect the budget for the first 10 years of the business. Second, please. So we spoke now about two factors that can be pitfall, and it can affect the Greenfield hospital, and it can create a huge failure if the market was not accurate, if the financial plan and the budget plan was not up to the level and touch all the factors. Now we will talk about something called regulatory challenges. Here in Saudi Arabia, we have not less than 6 regulatory entities that control everything from A to Z. We are talking about building compliances. We are talking about safety compliances. We are talking about clinical compliances, practice compliances, licensing of the practitioners. So we have, plus, of course, MOH itself. I mean, going into those regulatory and all these standards and compliances should be absorbed and taken in a very deep consideration before we think of building a capacity or making a hospital. Why? Because there is direct and indirect cost and time that is tied to those regulatory compliances. If I don't know that we should have, for example, I will give you a very simple example, that I have at least 700 standard in infection control before I make sure I open my hospital. How would I avoid penalties and making sure that my license is valid? So majority of the mistakes that happen in Greenfield, they think that only after they finish the building, they can take this regulatory into their attention, where 90% of these regulations are to be considered before even you map your AutoCAD, before you do your plans. So knowing the regulation, keeping in touch with all the entities that can facilitate your hospital, your services, is very important from the beginning. Sibahi is our central board of healthcare accreditation, and it is controlling, for example, our clinical and practices regulation. MOH is our the biggest umbrella that have a lot of other what do you call it? What they have other entities that regulate the building code of healthcare sector. It has the infection control compliances. It has the licensing of the practitioner. So there is so many entities, and this will be applied depending on your country or your regulations. Second, I'm sorry, but I'm having a disturbing call, so I cannot see the slides. Okay, construction pitfalls. Again, we have something called IHI. This is an international standard for healthcare code of building, where any hospital should follow when they plan to open a hospital or a polyclinic or a medical center. Again, as we keep on reminding ourselves, despite the size and the scope of services that we are providing through this entity, we always need to comply to the country code of building, where we should not violate the parking, we should not violate that we have enough electricity, enough water system, sewage system. All these issues that goes to such thing is very important to be taken in consideration. We said site selection important also when we do deep market analysis and a feasibility study, a land that is owned by certain investor and he want to invest to build the hospital, he need to make sure that all the surroundings and the services is fair enough and all provided to that place, making sure that all the neighborhood and the population around that needs, we know their ages. I mean, full feasibility study of the area and site selection is very important. Otherwise, this can create a huge failure. I will give you also an example who select to build the hospital near to another, very close to another, are wondering why our hospital failed. Now, it is always healthy to compete within the, but also we need to consider that the distance between every hospital and another is fair enough to provide the service to the neighborhood and the surrounding. Even if we are forced to use that land, for example, or that site, we need to make sure that the scope and the type of service we provide is unique. Methodologies for the construction, knowing that again and again, this complex building having a very crucial type of air conditioning and air isolation and air cycling, a very specific risky type of infrastructure for the IT. And nowadays, with our innovation and the huge growth in technology, if we are capable to build a good funding, such project from the construction point of view should be also very reliable and accurate. Otherwise, if you are not competing and aligning yourself with the growth that's happening within 10 years from the time of failure in that organization. Now, also the clear identity of that business. If I want to say I would build 100-bed capacity hospital, what exactly the services that I'm providing in this hospital? Is this services needed or not? what unique do I provide? Okay, we might be all the same. We provide maternity and child services. We provide outpatient services, ER services, ICU, critical care, whatever. But we need to have a signature and clear identity that differentiate that specific hospital and business market and facilitate the revenue. The out making sure that we don't violate the human rights and the human needs, different category of patients when you start to do your construction and AutoCADs. Next. Next, please. Hello.
Yes, doc. Hello. Hello.
Yes, it's not clear, my dear. Yes, hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. We can share. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. You can continue your presentation.
Yes, you can hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
You can hear me, my dear?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay, as we said, just a quick, yes, a quick reminder. No, please go back. No, go back, my dear. You are hearing me very late.
No, okay. Hello.
Yes, now.
Yeah, okay. You can
Okay,
continue your
just a quick
presentation.
reminder on what we, my dear, you have some, no, no, not this one, not this slide. The slide that speak about communication.
Hello.
Okay, so reminding you about our points again. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
You can hear me, my dear, or
Yes,
no?
yes, yes, yes. We can hear you, but your voice is not clear, doc. Maybe network
My
issue.
network is perfect, my dear. I think you should. My network is full.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. You can continue.
Okay, so reminding you again about the pitfalls and the failure mode analysis for Greenfield Hospital. The first that we talk about is market need analysis, accurate and meeting the need of the market. Second is making sure that you know all the compliances and the regulatory entity that controls any industry that you do. The third is making sure that your construction and the financial funds are very accurate and up to 10 years. Now, the other factor that might affect and create unnecessary failure in some organization is miscommunication. Sometimes investors or executives, there is a lot of um, liars when it comes to Greenfield. The first liar that comes in the Greenfield is the liar of the investor. This liar should be very clear in their goals. They need to have very clear strategic plan where their goals are and KPI are very clear to themselves. Their financial plan should support their strategic plan. And the moment they start to hire their executives and chiefs, those chiefs also need to understand and digest those goals very well. Aside from digesting and understanding and properly, transparently communicating all these goals, they need to be convinced. Otherwise, if you have an executor that is not convinced with your goal, that means you already enter to a failure zone. There should be a very open, transparent, trustful communication between all level of authorities and the authority matrix, where the communication of the information or the money or the decision should be taken up and down in a very smooth way. Otherwise, the goals of that organization from the very frontliners to the investor will not appear to bring the succession to the organization. So one of the biggest pitfall that I have faced from my experience in the last 25 years is improper, fake communication, fake numbers, and making sure to inflate and please the investor rather than being open to be criticized and build in a positive way. Second, please. Here we are talking also about unclear governance. Building an entity or any industry, I'm talking about any type of investment. And when we talk about human life, here we need to be very, 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 very careful. Having a legal affair and contract administrator, having some person who is experienced in legal health care issues is very important. Mapping those major framework and legal issues that happen in the beginning of any investment is one of the most crucial things that we have faced in our previous projects. I have done for the last 10 years 5 new hospitals and Greenfield, and unfortunately this was always been a pitfall in that regard. Even if you bring a lawyer or a legal consultant or name it based on your country and your country law, this person need to understand the healthcare law, not the general law, because building contracts from the point of buying machineries, contracting people, and every single legal step we take, from buying the land, from licensing the organization, from contracting the staff, from all these aspects, need a legal advisor who understand what is the meaning of the governance, what is the meaning of authority matrix, why there should be a board, why there should be an executive, who do what, and avoiding all the conflict of interest, so the business will grow in a smooth and legal way. Second, please. Okay. One also of the biggest factor that brings succession or failure to project, having unclear project management canvas. In a sense that you might have a PMO officer or a consultant or whoever, but he has never been working in hospital before. The nature of project management in hospitals is very unique. The way that we plan our priority in project management, the way we frame and we design the time frame and the responsible person for every task is very crucial. Following up those and making sure that we already align the risks for every goal that we put in our project management is very crucial. I mean, having such an element in startup Greenfield is one of the most important posts. Even if you don't have it in a running hospital, uh, it is a necessity in a Greenfield, because for the nature of the business that we are doing, we are growing the capacity. Having someone to control all these dashboards and making sure that everything is happening on time is very important. Second, please. One of the other important factor is poor leadership skills. Again, I've been sharing my expertise around the globe with different continents, with different countries. I'm talking about Middle East or Western countries, or in Asia or in Africa. There has always been a dilemma about who's supposed to be the CEO of a health organization. Some countries believe that a CEO should be holding a degree or an experience in leadership despite if he has medical background or no. From being exposed to different experiences and working in different setup, as I just mentioned before, whether it's an academic, private, government, semi-government, I always saw that leadership come on the top. I mean, leaders cannot be created, they are born. There is always knowledge, but knowledge and theories of leadership is made by humans. That means the skills is much more important than theories. Aside from that, having the minimum exposure to healthcare is also very important for an executive that work in healthcare, especially the CEO. Now, conclusion to all these factors, I believe that one of the major pitfalls in healthcare organization in Greenfield, giving such responsibility to the pyramid head for someone who has no clue about healthcare and he is not born to be a leader. Second, please. Okay. As we said from the very beginning, no plan, no succession. If you don't plan for any type of any investment, that means you are literally walking blind. Some people think that documents, compliances, strategies, plans are only papers and words to be only filed and kept somewhere just to prove that we have done this step. But if you come and ask any one of the chiefs or the executive or the decision maker, they literally know nothing about the strategic plan. The cruciality of the strategic plan is that you literally have your Bible in your industry. This is your Quran. This is how you know your path and you know your goal. If the chiefs and the executive does not know the investor goals, that means we are 100% lost. And if still there is any entity that believes all the compliances, all the plans, or the paperwork are only meant to be in computers, in files, or in cupboard, this is their very first step to failure. Knowing also the fact that there is part of those plans that always stay dynamic. They keep on changing in quarter basis, in yearly basis, in annual basis, but some of them are fixed and they are the actual path of that business. Next, insufficient operation or highly inflated, far from the competition and the market status. Now, if we said we did a very, very strong market feasibility study and we made sure that we know all the compliances, we communicated with all regulated entity and we are in a very safe and legal pathway, we have a very good advocate or consultant or legal advisor, we have an excellent communication methodology between the board of investors and the executives and the frontliners. And all of these steps were taken in a very beautiful way. One of the most painful pitfall for all the countries across the board is the operation. We have all the theories in hand, we have all the people in hand. Now let's do the real thing. Are we inflating the operation? Are we exaggerating our dreams? Do we know how we can go gradually with our goals? Do we know our priority? Remember when we talk about the PMO and the necessity of having PMO officer in Greenfield entity? This is the second very important person that is mandated in Greenfield: the operation officer. The operation officer is like a valve. He is the only person who can tell how much is the business growing. Do we need to go up or come down? Do we need to close this pipe or open the other one? It is very dangerous that we keep all our pipe open and exaggerate the expendings in the beginning, being excited that we have enough funds, so we buy expensive thing, we hire with inflated salary, we open all the services together. On the other hand, there is the other opposite of that, when you are very scared and you close all your pipes and you delay important services only because you are afraid that you are overspending. So we would like to have someone who has the experience to balance those. Now, from where we can get this balance? Only if we have a very accurate strategic plan that goes in line with our SWOT analysis. We know our risks, we know our strengths, we know our opportunity, and we are moving from those lines. Now, you know where you open your pipe, where you have the strength. You know where you close your pipe, where you have a weakness. Threats should be taken care in a very strategized way, where you need to make sure that you mitigate all your risks. So, when I talk about operation, I'm talking about the most painful area in any investment. In healthcare, for the complexity, for the huge demand of expendings that happen in the first 6 months of operation, I always recommend that the operation officer should be very balanced and he knows exactly how to open and close those pipes in a very wise way. Second, please. Weak engagement of technology. I have multiple posts in LinkedIn and multiple publications that I have made about people being so much impressed by technology and all talking about AI as if it's a trend. This cannot be a trend. We are talking about human lives, my dears. When we talk about investing in technology and adapting any type of tool that is trendy right now, we need to study that 360. Otherwise, we will only wasting our funds and putting our patients and clinicians at risks. There was a lot and a lot on a daily basis that you hear about tools, AI, diagnostic tools, HIS, multiple things that happen around us that serves the technology. But are we ready? Are we really using this technology in a proper way? Are we investing in the right way? Do we know what we really want on the couple 5 coming years? This is the biggest question. Now, that's why in Greenfield, having chief informatic officer is a big necessity as someone who understands what we need from the infrastructure, why do we need it, what is our vision for the coming 10 years is very important, especially with the huge temptations and huge growth of innovation and technology. So one of the biggest failure that you have either very weak engagement with technology or exaggerated adoption of unnecessary tools and multiple functions, multiple platforms that is not integrated together. Second, please. Weak bidding and purchasing while we are creating the deals. I said before, having proper governance, having authority matrix, having no conflict of interest, people doing their job without any uh, 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 um, personal benefit is very important. Purchase department is one of the most corrupted services that can be. So putting an eye on that department, creating processes and systems and methodology to avoid any type of non-compliance or personal interest in such department is very important. We have witnessed many cases and court cases about people working in purchase department creating deal without proper bidding processes, without proper way of managing that deal, without proper contracts, with weak bidding criteria. So what I'm trying to say, a purchasing committee is a necessary in a green field, and having this committee in a very transparent, documented manner, and all the processes inside that specific committee is very, very important. Second, number 9, we were in 8, this is 10. There was a step before this, a slide. This is 8. Strange. Okay. Okay, staff burnout due to multitasking and irrelevant to their job description. One of the very shameful excuse that the executive or the board member or the investor used to hang all their mistake on is that we don't want to inflate our budget. We will hire people with double, triple, and quadri hats sometimes, and this is totally unhealthy. It is always better. We can always learn, even in Quran. We God always taught us to learn from certain animals how they make systems. If you have a deep look on ants, ants cannot build without proper distribution of task. Even ants have very proper job description for every single part of their kingdom. Now, when we talk about human and we are building hospital, it is more complex. We are talking about patient. We are talking about lives. You cannot just take an excuse that you want to save and be efficient and let people burn out from having multiple tasks on the organization. We understand that at certain point of time, you cannot bring all the staff together, but we also need to make sure through our PMO and our operation officer that the capacity build up is fair enough to the organization, to the business, and to the employee also, making sure that we attract the right person, the right capability, the right age category, the right position name. These are very important things. So the human resource need to make sure that is very fair, even during the interview, when he explained the nature of the business, the nature of the task, the actual job description, and the capability of that candidate to be fit for such projects or not. So we will not end up in the middle of our operation in a very crucial time where we need people to be in their peak of their energy, but they're all in burnout mood. Okay. Second, please. My dear, you are going to point 12. I did not speak about 10. Point 10, please. This is 13. This is 12. I want 10. Okay. Weak or exaggerated engagement of marketing. Again, when we talk about Greenfield Hospital, it is always very mandatory to create the balance. Some people get very excited and they post everywhere in social media, in advertisement, in everywhere about their project when they are not even in the middle of their project. It is always wise to build your marketing plan based on your strategy plan and your achievement through your operation journey. Otherwise, it's either you will be totally absent from the market because you did not use your tools properly, or you will be over appearing in the social media when you are not ready. It is always good to use the right tool at the right time with the right achievement. We are not supposed to imitate competitors in using their social media and marketing tools and whatever, because in Greenfield, you should be very confident about what you are talking about and marketing. So sometimes one of the biggest pitfall for a Greenfield, over marketing or under marketing, or using inappropriate tool in inappropriate time. Next, now we can move to point 12. Okay. One of the pitfalls that I have also faced from my very long experience, that some of the arrogant investors, people who has never been working in healthcare before, or all what they care about is their revenue, healthcare and patient safety and patient life is not their priority. Here, we have conflict always with such mentalities and ethical framework for not adapting the regulations and the standards. Sometimes those investors will think that those standards can be against their win-win situation. It's only because they cannot absorb it or they cannot understand it, and that's why I said always it is better to have very clear regulatory a board where you have all the governance for every authority in a very clear way. Where if I contradict as an executive or a clinical practitioner, if I contradict, in my opinion, the investor, it is very healthy. We cannot just follow the investors and their, sometimes, I'm not generalizing my idea, but sometimes their greediness, loving of having the revenue despite the safety and the life of the patient, sometimes can put us in jeopardy. So making sure that the investors have very good communication with the executive. We have brave executive that can communicate their opinion in a healthy way, that they can be an advocate for the patient is very important. Again, despite that, it is very difficult to be under control of not less than 6 entities, but you have chosen this industry, so you have to take all the pros and cons of that specific investment. In every investment we choose, there is always pros and cons. The complexity of healthcare is not something that is pleasant for anyone. But since you chose that road, you need to respect the rules and regulations. There is always a room of negotiation. There is always room of communication between the executives and the investors, but we should not blind the standard or ignore the regulations only because they are against our interest. Next, insufficient smocks and scenarios and simulation or workflows or processes. To strengthen our talk about having priority when we operate any business, and to strengthen the idea that it is a very complex actually industry, making sure that we always simulate what we want to do is very important. You know, you are opening a hospital for the first time, even if the processes are copy paste from other hospitals, there is nothing new, but there is always differences between the natures of the business between each other. Even if the scopes are the same, the personality of the employees are not the same, the background of the employees are not the same, the nature of the business is not the same. So I always recommend that we create top 10 mocks and simulation in any department where we can train our staff and making them ready for the potential risks and gaps that always we face in this industry. And again, from my experience, I saw big uh, uh, impact of doing simulations in Greenfield Hospital. The conclusion and the lesson to be learned: to avoid the common failures in startup hospital requires a very strategic approach by focusing on the market understanding, financial management, regulatory compliance, teamwork, team building, understanding and navigating all the startup challenges, and making sure that this all comes together in one platform is very important. Now, the final word that I would advise my colleagues in this lecture: please don't forget that our job is all about humanity and patient's life. If we only imagine, God forbidden, that the person who entered to this place is can be your loved one, your mother, your father, your son, your husband. Only if we can imagine this all the time when we work, when we plan, when we decide, trust me, you cannot do anything but the best. Regulations are made by human, standard made by human, theories made by human, but those people who made these theories are the most humanitarian people. If we only put our heart, morality, and ethics in our work, trust me, everything will be easy. And try to create the balance and win-win situation for everybody. Thank you so much.